Go. Test sound, test sound, 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 test sound, test sound, sound, test. Oh, it's me. I've been wondering if after all these years. Test sound, let's go, let's go. Seems good. And interesting. Seems good and interesting. Just checking out my mic again. Hey. Hello. Hello. It's me. I've been wondering if after all these years you like to meet me. Oh, nice. Okay, so now I am again today for this reading club, The Thinkers. I have the pleasure to have you here, and let's continue with our journey. Start identifications. Okay, identifications on. Let's move on. So today we are entering on a new book. This book is called The Psychology of the Unconscious from Carl Jung. It was wrote and published first in 1912 during the beginnings of First World War, right? It was in 1914 to 1918. It was in the beginnings of the First World War during last century. It's an interesting book. I've read 70 pages of the book. I'm going to end this during next week, and I think so far it's a great book, very complex book, especially for people that are not on the topic. It's really abstract. Like if you are not a specialized person, you look to that and you'll say, what the hell is this? So that's my intuitive reaction to opening the book from people, from a perspective of a person that is outside. So as I am inside, as I explored more my own psyche, and I'm a psychology student, I feel, I see, I can understand more what the hell they are saying and talking. I even see some parallels to today's neuroscience and dopamine, or at least I see some parallels that we can make. It is interesting. To start, I like to share this idea of diseases that we can have on our body, that at the time they call it hysteria, these really unusual names that I am going to tell you exactly how it is supposed to pronounce.
Hysteria,
neurosis, and essentially the book in the first pages. Sorry. I have something on my mouth. Essentially says and presents some cases of people that their body is all okay. So neurophysiologically they will be supposed to be good, even though we are talking about 1912, like they were supposed to be okay. But even though their physical body was okay, they were having things that did not correspond to their body, like convulsions, paralysis, even in some cases lapses of language. So meaning the person forgot their main language and could only speak English, not their main language, surrounded by the culture where she was growing up. So the person lost ability to that. And there was no logic in the body to say, hey, the person cannot remember their own language because XYZ, or convulsions are happening because XYZ. No, there were no explanation for that. But they found an explanation, which is from the psyche, and it's called psychogenic. At the time, psychogenic, it was a name to say it is coming from the soul. something that it comes from the soul. It is a term that I think we should really use more today. It is the soul. I think it can really make some psychological transformation if you are really going in depth into these topics, especially if you are reading Carl Jung, or listen to me, perhaps, maybe, when I talk more about Carl Jung on my channel, or at least here in the Reading Club, The Thinkers. And so these people are having these effects on the body, and the main source of it is the mind. But it's not like conscious. Their body, mind are theoretically working, but their psyche / the mind, okay, the mind, are having these impacts on the body. And it happens some interesting effects, which is one person, it was not able to hear, but she would sing. So the person sings every single day, and there is a day where the physician starts to play piano without her noticing it. So he starts to play piano according to the tone that she was singing, and suddenly it changes the tone that is playing on the piano. Changes the tone. And the same exact time that the physician changes the tone of the piano, she adapts to it. It's magic, right? Suddenly she was capable of listening. And in the words of the book, it is she can't listen, but at the same time she can. Or she can listen, but at the same time she cannot listen. So what the hell is this? What's happening? And this makes me remind a documentary from Nis de Silveira, which is amazing, where she is in a kind of hospital, but for like maniacs. I hope that's the right word in English. Maniacs, people that are really disturbed psychologically. So it is a psychiatric hospital, and they are there, and they have schizophrenia, they have all these types of really extreme diseases, extreme cases. And she puts them writing mandalas, and she looks up to them, trying to figure out a way to connect with them, to show some effect, emotion. And it's really amazing because I feel like she is doing that with them in the hopes that when they can express something that was inside them that is deeply profound and painful, that they can recover. And it's exactly what this book is talking about. Because besides the fact that the piano could get an adjustment in the voice of the person, it also talks about a case where the client was in a state that it is like kind of sleep, but it is not sleeping. So it is like kind of a sleepy stage, almost falling asleep, but not asleep, kind of a profound hypnosis, where she was talking whatever it will come to mind. Just talk whatever it comes to mind. And she will talk reminiscences of memories she had with their dad. She was taking of her dad, and their dad was really sick. So she is accessing these reminiscences, and you see, he starts to have explicit memories of her with her dad, and intense memories. And as the treatment goes and she is talking, she is getting cured. In fact, that's exactly what happens. She gets cured out of nowhere. So these cases are really interesting to watch. And it is still today the case that this word is still used in the 21st century in the scientific literature. The word psychogenic, which is people having some symptoms in the body that do not correspond to what they have in the body. So it is from the psyche / unconscious processes on the psyche. So also I have seen some updated names of this version, like in English I believe it will be somatomorphosis. I can put you on the chat if you want. I will put on the chat for the YouTube people. Now they call it somatic symptom, or and before they will call it, and I guess that's how still it is used by some people, somatoform disorder. This is really interesting. Somatoform disorder. And we also have other names for these types of diseases that don't have an apparent explanation for it, even though, of course, they can have other psychiatric illnesses on their body or psychological explain. But these types of symptoms, like we cannot explain apparently. So this is my synthesis of the first pages reading this book, Psychology of Unconscious. It's really amazing to see. I get to these insights that I'm sharing with you because I relate to the topic in the sense that I've already experienced how some psychological stress, even though it is related to the past, not necessarily the future, objectively, because in the mind it is in the present, somehow in the present, still in the present, and how I've experienced how can that manifest into symptoms on the body. I remember when I was in this really bad state, as well as I was completely disconnected from my body. I felt like I was other person walking around, like, yeah, with completely unrelated responses that João, my name, João, would respond to, completely different person. And I noticed that in my body. Like one day I woke up, I felt like I saw rounded circles in my eyes. I couldn't see. Half of my vision was blank. And I identified somehow intuitively, and because what I was reading, that, my God, this is because of this XYZ state that I am in. And other things like convulsions too. I had convulsions when I lay down on my bed to sleep. Then it went from during the day, but like in the head, like doing this, boom, 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 boom. It still happens from time to time. And even though it still happens time to time, I grab those insights and I see how that can apply, because I saw a perfect correlation between these really bad experiences that I was having, fruit of my university, more precisely my perception of the social reality when I was in university with some teachers that I relate to the woke culture, that I associate them to the woke culture. It was really bad. So it put me like this in this state that I'm completely having a dissociation to my goddamn body, which never happened to me. I always connected to dozens of people, saying hi and socializing. Never happened to me. I traveled to plus 6 countries, and never happened to me this stuff in any environment, and it happened in university. It was so damn daunting to myself. So I can perfectly relate and see how can this be true. I think this is worth sharing, because if you somehow identify yourself with this, well, you can find a way, going to a therapist, or just knowing that you have to express yourself. And of course, physical exercise helps. Sleeping well helps. Eating healthy helps. All of this. And I think it can also give some insights to contemporary psychology. One thing also that we talked in the Portuguese version of the reading club, The Thinkers, was that even historically, at the time, there was a more rigid environment to what women could do. And most of the cases, from what I've read, especially Sigmund Freud, for example, almost all of his patients were women. And we all know how rigid women were treated at the time, and even to men, right? Violence could spike more easily, verbal, I would say. But in women, you could have to marry with somebody you don't like, you don't want. You have to assume this role that you have in society that you do not choose. So it's interesting to see how that phenomenon may have happened more at that time than today. At least today, in university, I don't have a lot of contact with cases of people that they see but they could not see, or they couldn't see but they can't see. Like it works but it's not working. So at the time, reading these guys that were the top dogs, I believe at the time, at least in this domain, we see lots of these cases. But at the time, I don't have contact, so maybe it was an historical point, because today we have the opposite, right? We have total liberty, freedom. You can do whatever you want. You can dress however you want. Before it wasn't like that. You can do tattoos. Before it wasn't like that. At least here in Portugal, piercings. You can do whatever you want. Drugs. Nobody cares. Smoking weed is cool. At the time, I don't know, but I bet it wasn't. So it's really depending on the culture that you have, of course. But I'm talking here from Portugal, and I guess it is not changing. It doesn't change a lot here in the Western culture, right? It was like 100 years ago, but huge change happened in society and culture, of course. So that might be a reason of why that is the case of us not seeing so many cases like that today, or at least me, I don't see. So historical reasons and cultural reasons, societal reasons. Even though that's worth to know, that we should put outside whatever you want, and that suppressing emotions, suppressing memories can be a source of physical illness. I know this for sure. At least I suspected. Nobody told me in the university, but what I read, as my personal experience goes, it is for real. So we should treat our psyche really well. Okay. So I really like the case of seeing the psychogenic factor as something that comes from the soul, like hysteria, neurosis, paralysis, convulsions, forgetting my maternal language, my maternal language, as things that can come from the soul. So we should understand and purge the soul. It's really interesting. Even for today, for us to know and understand ourselves better, right? Because most of these, like the case that I was talking before, it was a woman that was treating her dad, and that's why she was having these intense emotional effects on her. So the body is a way for the mind to talk. What the mind doesn't express or say, the body will talk. The body at least will try to talk, try to communicate with outside. And that can be with convulsions, putting outside what is inside, because it couldn't otherwise. I think that it's also interesting to see in the book is a theory of trauma. Which is also associated with the fact that the trauma has more to do with the meaning that the person attributes to the trauma, to the situation that is happening to him at the time, so it becomes trauma, then consequently, than the situation itself. So it's not the situation in itself that is traumatic, but the attribution of meaning to the situation in itself that it is traumatic. This is a really interesting thing to know too, because if you know that, you can expand a little bit your conscious, right? That it is not necessarily your trauma, meaning you don't have to have trauma, or at least you know that how you attribute meaning, it can you create It can make you create trauma or not. So you be more careful with how you attribute meaning, and I think that's wonderful, right? And we see this in people, right? There is the old image of big, strong men that they can see blood, they can see guns, they can see whatever it is, that they are strong and they face it, even it is disgusting. And then we can see the old image of some vulnerable woman that easily gets disgusted by some things that are outside the norm, like blood, like guns, like war. Just I'm going to an extreme just to show an example. And of course, it's in a traditional way. We less and less look to this as this way of opposing these two sexes. It's really interesting to see this as well here, because in 1912, some really interesting facts that we can see here that they are true, right? We know this for a long time, or sometimes like this he has like 110 years old. Really interesting. The book also talks about other things. Of course, I'm just talking about like what, first 10 pages probably. I'm going to open it. Yeah, like first 10 pages, 15 pages. Then it starts to enter the concept of eros from Sigmund Freud. That our behavior it is so we can satisfy our pleasure in a way that is socially acceptable. So to satisfy my sexual needs, so I go eat something to sublime my original need of sex. Just an example. Or I go find a work where it gives me pleasure, so I satisfy my needs. And I'm guided by that. But it is not the whole complete story. Meaning, it isn't necessarily, according to the author, one explanation fits all. It is an observation, but there is absolutely other theories that can complement this one. For example, it adds the theory that, according to my colleague Marisabel Fernandes from Adler, of the will to power. Will to power. And the author talks a little bit about Nietzsche, how we also touch on this topic. And then that's how I have understood more the topic, the will to power, which is another variable that can guide people, the will to power. So the author talks about it doesn't have to be one, neither another. They both can exist. One does not fit all, which is, I think, it's a perfect normal thing to do, and it's useful because having more lens to see possible causes of behavior, it is more useful than just having one, right? So we have an more in-depth understanding of the world, and that's amazing. That's what I look forward to give to you in this channel with my work, so you can master your behavior better and detect these types of behavior society so well. You have a more and broader consciousness, so expansion of consciousness. And the way I interpret this in a Jungian paradigm is that we all have this will to power. I'm not sure if the authors refer to this specifically, but I think it is an interpretation that is at least is useful to share with you. That it is in the shadow, we all have this will to power, this animal primitive instinct to have power, grab things, do things, conquer. It's primitive, right? And there's people that never get in touch with this instinct. But according to the book, those who have touch with this instinct, they should be very careful. Actually, the book says they should not get in touch with this, because then they will probably, because of their background and their innate bornness into life, they will probably suppress it in my interpretation of reading the book, and they will, because they have waken up that monster, they will suppress it. So it's still a shadow, but it's like it is a more activated shadow. So now they are making projections because they all are pointing fingers to others, seeing what they have inside, which is this will to power. But as they don't accept it, neither they put some light on it so they can incorporate it in a healthy way. They just do projections pointing fingers to other people that are conquering the world, or even their own world. Especially nice people probably will fit in this category, even in this way. And so it is useful to share this, because you can wake up, my opinion, this will to power if you need / if you want, even with social group pressure that can be healthy too, because you can be modulated definitely by your peers, by your group, depending on what you consume. So you can make that shift consciously, I would argue. And of course, you can dominate that in a conscious way. That we already do more and more, I believe, because we are more conscious and we think more and more as time goes by, and as we need to do less manual work and we have more time to think and read, and the information is really, really accessible, so we can know lots of things more easier and faster than ever. So that's my opinion. We can wake up that, so you can use that in our advantage, because, well, we can be suppressing something that we never activate, or something that is already kind of activated. We are pointing fingers to others instead of letting them grow or helping them, so you can grow too, doing whatever it is. And power here I interpret as anything that is empowering you. So it can be study more, doing another degree, going to the next level of your psychological development, like even doing a course on how to regulate your emotions, so you have a better understanding of emotions, your emotions. You can help others, so you become a more powerful man. So there's the old say that says that power is bad. It is not necessarily bad. What is bad is the will to power no matter what, as my colleague Marisabel Fernandes was saying for the Portuguese version. The will to power no matter what, it is the one that it is bad. The will to power, it is not bad. Especially when we light them and incorporate them in a way that is healthy for us and to society, and is not will to power that is no matter. I think that's really interesting to know and acknowledge. This is according to Jung perspective, of course. And one thing that is also interesting to know from Jung is that the introverted wants to be as extroverted in deeply wants to have a little bit of introvertedness too. So even the introverted person, it has something deep inside of them that wants to connect with other and be more extroverted, but it is on the shadow. So the person has to dig deep and pass through a psychological transformation or work that out. In my case, I was a completely full introverted, and that's my innateness of being in life, is to be introverted. But as time went by, I worked a lot on myself, and now I can talk in front of cameras easily. No stress, no anxiety. I can talk in stages, no stress, no anxiety, just boom, go. I made recently a stand-up comedy in a Portuguese theater. Boom, go, easy. So, and I can connect and talk to people really easy, but it was all work. So it made perfectly sense for me what Jung was trying to say with that intention that the introverted person wants to also be extroverted and connect to others, has that deep, profound desire. Really interesting, really true, as I can tell, because we are all human beings. You can even see from that perspective. We are all human beings, right? It is just something. We are all animals, for that sake. We are all animals. We are all full of animal instincts, but we just dominate them. We master them. So we pull out some things so we can understand ourselves better, and consequently, when we put some light in this shadowness of these animal instincts, when we put some light in these animal instincts, we can understand ourselves better. We can take better decisions, and of course, we can understand better the world too, because the other person, in some sense, is not a lot of different from us. Just have their own specific and unique characteristics, because in some fundamental sense, we all act in some kind of pattern that it will be the archetype in the Jungian idea, right? These all patterns of behavior that we all fit with certain attributes of meaning with certain patterns of attributing meaning to the world that we all have in our psyche, in the collective unconscious or the supra unconscious, that we have inherited from our past ancestors. And that's really amazing. That's really amazing. We have reached out a level where the archetypes have now a scientific recognition from biology. They are called organic codes. So even the archetypes are recognized by science right now as organic codes. We have some Portuguese contribution to that here in Portugal. A scientific article wrote by João Carlos Major. Amazing. I love this. I love this. So even though we might not know what the hell is exactly an archetype, it is just useful to know that everybody acts in some pattern of behavior, that we just differ in the specifics. For example, you can all say, you know that type of guy that does X, Y, Z, and we all say, oh yes, I know that type of guy. Everybody knows instinctively, instantly. But that type of guy that exists, they are different under specificity, right? But their broader act, but their broader way of acting in the world, it's the same. So we make that abstraction. And as we make that abstraction, it is easy for us to observe that pattern in other people. And that's good knowledge to have. So the more shadow we light up, the more we understand ourselves, the better we can understand other people. Because we see in other people what we see in ourselves. We can only see in others what we see in ourselves. Sympathy, happiness, unhappiness. If you don't have any construct on your head of what is happiness or unhappiness, you cannot see in the other happiness. You just see whatever you have a representation of them doing in your head. And you can make up one, which is amazing, right? But how do you detect in others? You detect in others because you have in yourself. And you have in yourself because you are a biological human being like them. So they act in a way that is similar to yours. That's how you can detect what the hell other is doing. Because what? You use your own representations of yourself and others, but in your head, inside you. Inside you. That's why you can detect in others what the hell he is doing. Because you have some representation inside you that recognizes what the hell they are doing. Because the other is not much different from you. You can understand them deeply and know, oh, that's what the hell he's doing. Right? Because if you are watching a completely different species from a human being, there is some patterns that you can recognize, like animals reproducing themselves, of course. But you don't know every single pattern of other animal, right? There's animals that they could be doing something that you are like, what the hell is doing? No idea. If you can even see that 100 times. And with human beings, you can see, oh, he's happy, he's smiling. Oh, he's saying hi. Right? Because you have that in you. Do you know any animal that says hi? I don't know. Even monkeys, I guess they don't say hello, hi, right? But they probably do other things that you don't know what the hell they are doing, right? You have to understand the language of monkeys to understand what the hell monkeys are doing and saying. So I think that's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. To understand and see these patterns of behavior. Because to me, it also puts me in the path, again, from Schopenhauer. The will as representation in the world. I guess that's the name of the book, where it's like more than 600 pages book, and somewhere there it says that somehow the knowledge is already inside of you. The experience, it is the one that makes that knowledge that knowledge be, the experience is the one that makes that knowledge being unlocked, so it is accessible to your conscious mind. So he gives the example of a fox. A fox is acting out in nature, and a tree falls down, boom, just right on their tail. How the hell the fox knows that what is impeding him to move being the tree? Oh, is the pain? No, the pain is just information, right? It's just information on that pain is coming. It's just pain, but there's nothing that says here is the tree. No, it is somehow the experience, that situation that makes it manifest in the world, the knowledge on the fox that she has to run away, and the tree is the cause of their pain, because the pain in itself is just information. It is other complex processes that enter that makes the fox know that it is the goddamn tree. So it's really interesting. At least I make that parallel into real life, and but even though it's different, because we are not talking about people. We are not talking about people, but where I want to touch is that the profound knowledge of things is already inside of us. Somehow, you just have to access it. And Schopenhauer makes a good point there. That at least to me give me another confirmation of a click I had some really time ago. That's really interesting. Another idea from Arthur Schopenhauer that I think it's really interesting. I got to know these ideas through Carl Jung, but I do not know where the hell it is, because I looked to the font, I was searching for the font, and I did not find where the hell it was the original idea of this. But from what I understand from reading Carl Jung, the book Synchronicity, it is the idea that like the world, there is meridians and parallels, right? And one corresponds the I'm seeing if I said right, parallels and meridians. I think I didn't. I have here on my second brain. I guess I can share to you. I'm going to show you. Here it is. Boom. So meridians, yes, I was doing the inverse. Meridians and parallels. So one of these, let's say the meridians, they correspond to the objective causal world. So objectiveness, this happens for a reason. 1 plus 1, of course, it is 2. If I put my hand up in the air and my muscles go, it will fall. It's obvious, logic, causal effect, cause and effect, right? But simultaneously, as for every meridian, there's a parallel, right? I can be in the same meridian, but in the same meridian can be a whole bunch of parallels. Like I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, and then it goes on and on. Theoretically, I would say infinite parallels. So to each meridian, that it is happening out in the world. So for each cause and effect that it is happening in the world, there is a corresponding world. And that corresponding world, it is the world of what I call meaning. What the hell he called it? What the hell Arthur Schopenhauer called? I guess he called it the same thing. Meaning. I believe it was really meaning that he said. I'm not going to look up right now, but I think it was meaning or something that it can be represented by meaning, purpose. Has some purpose. And I really loved that idea. Because in my interpretation, it means because he had access to this world in his eyes, and he saw this is true, that metaphysics somehow can be cognizable. Consciousness. Right? We can enter in this world of meaning, purpose, meaning. And this in practice, how the hell you can access this information? Well, theoretically, it's inside of us, but we don't know really if it is inside of us or if the mind somewhere travels outside of the head. But let's say it is inside of the head, it's on our mind. So we can access that world, I would say, even though it is really hard, right? But somehow it is possible, right? Otherwise, Arthur Schopenhauer wouldn't write this down. So in practice, this will be forever cause and effect. For example, she is going to eat a banana while she's in the supermarket. So she has to go to buy the banana so he can eat it. So the apparent cause and effect, you might say it is, well, the person wants to eat. Suddenly, physiological activation comes and she feels the urge to eat. So now he's going to grab a banana to eat. But in the world of meaning, that is not the reason of why she is going to buy and eat a banana. So I'll tell you the story. While she's going to buy the banana, she steps out into their future husband, and they know there on that supermarket, right there, and they start a relationship or friendship, and then they become boyfriends, they become engaged, they marry, have children. So in the world of meaning, somehow the purpose of the girl was not to just eat a banana, but was some unconscious, transcendent force that made her having the urge to go buy a banana in that exact moment and time. I think this is beautiful. I can enter on the world where I can see this, where this is true, but these are philosophers, right? This is really complex. And how the hell they get to these places? We don't know, but in fact I can see also this. But it's the same like with Carl Jung, Arthur Schopenhauer, with other philosophers. What the hell they can get into these places? Well, explain the mind, absolutely. But as they explore the mind and as they get these insights, you can also get these insights and understand this. I guess that's why you study philosophers and Carl Jung and these people, so you can get more educated and understand these ideas, so you can see the world through these ideas and lenses, so you have a more in-depth understanding of the world. So I think that's useful to share. Or it can be if you have some kind of clique or whatever it is. Because of course, the world is complex. And this is not anything that is magic, but I think it is an idea that is worth to share the fact that most of the knowledge that you have and you need is inside of you. You just need to unlock it. Like those types of fucking cliches, right? But, well, I hope I give you a good 1% to your life so I can improve your life, helping you. Okay? I think that's useful to share. I think it's true. Okay. So again, back to the psychology of unconscious. So I think that's interesting to know. And it was a good trip. So far we know that we can have physical manifestations of what appear to be diseases like convulsions, paralysis, aphasia, which is me not being able to express myself in my own language, for example. And that might be psychogenic, meaning it can be because of psychic processes that are happening and not anything that is in the body. Because again, the woman could hear even without being able to hear at the same time, because she changed their voice while singing, while she was listening to the men playing the piano. And I think Nis de Silveira, with her work, try to show that when we can when these people can connect, when these people can express what is inside of them in other ways than just convulsions and these really bad stuff, like through painting, talking, having human connection, really feeling connected with other person, like having attention, their needs met, all they could. Sure, I believe that's what she was trying to do with their work, and she was treating cases of extreme schizophrenia, so hallucinations, persons that suddenly will become like monsters and acting aggressively. So I think it's true. I think it's true. And these types of manifestations / disorders still maintains today. Like we can see these in the scientific literature. I was just checking out. I can put the links in the description. So really interesting to see these. And again, I've seen and noticed this in myself too, with my temporarily blindness, where I was able of only seeing half of the vision, with the compulsions I have, with the disconnection of the body that I can see perfectly how that fits here. Well, and it's my insights, right? Exploring the world of the psychiness, seeing this information and putting into reality and seeing how I can make sense with this. So this is the insights I get. Right? We have also went to the theory of trauma, where the history, the physical symptoms that we talk about, it can come from trauma. As I said, psyche. You can put in trauma in modern terms, and trauma it comes more from the attribute of meaning to the situation than to the situation itself. That's also useful to know. So maybe you might want to toughen up a little bit more so you get less trauma, because there's people that are super sensible, right? Something that are like, oh my gosh, anything is potentially super traumatic to them, and it's fucking funny. So it is useful if you want to make a stoicism exercise. I think it's perfect for this. Stoic exercises are perfect for this. You have some exercises that you can learn and learn more about the Stoic philosophy, the Stoicism philosophy, in the app from Samaris, Waking Up. It's amazing. It has some lessons there from a North American philosopher. A really interesting phrase that I also see here that I think it's worth sharing. It is, where the love it is predominant, there is no will to power. And where the power has precedence, then there is a lack of love. One is the shadow of another. So Marisabel Fernandes, my colleague, put this in the situation of relationships, right? When one person wants to impose power into other people, like their beliefs, like what they think they the other person has to do. Power, it is not love. It is not love. We talk a little bit about in super protection from mothers and fathers to sons and children. It can also that can happen. We were about to start this debate of a mother that's overprotects their children. It is a mother that loves them so much that makes her overprotective, or is a selfish thing. I said right away, it is a selfish thing because she is doing that to feel good. And it was not so clear for my colleague from what I observed. So I said, oh, but it's a philosophical debate, perhaps. But then she says this phrase, and I'm like, yeah, so I guess here it is really obvious that it is not from a place of love. It is from a place of will to power. You can see that in relationships. You can see that in relationships between boyfriend and girlfriend, and marriage, and fathers, sons, but more mothers with sons. Really, 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 really interesting. I also think that a thing that is worth sharing, again, about the will to power that theoretically is under our shadow, but we can illuminate our shadow and understand we have animal instincts like will to power. We can have this primitive instinct that it can urge of we wanting to conquer things in a primitive way, right? And that can be overwhelming in the sense that the person can neglect it, saying, no, I don't have that, and it suppresses it. So it makes projections into other people, saying how bad they are because they want to conquer the world or whatever it is. But it's because they have it in themselves, but they just are suppressing it, and it's not incorporated in a healthier way with them, because we normally want to conquer / we want power in a healthy way. It can be power, it can be me getting more education. Power can be me having my clinic. Power can be me progressing with my psychological maturation. And recognizing that it is a good source for the development. And it can make me keep going as a motivational force, because we all have that theoretically, right? We are animals. So the Jungian perspective, it recognizes us a lot like animals. So as animals, we have primitive instincts that we tend to repeat. But when we accept them, we shed some light on them, and you can incorporate them in a healthy way, right? And normally, I don't know in your culture, I guess in America it's pretty different, but here, normally when some person demonstrates that he is ambitious, wants more and to conquer more, be more, normally there is some pointing fingers saying that's bad, even though that's making sure that the person doesn't go too far away, right? Well, maybe it happens. It's the old classic. I want you to be good, but not as good as me or better than me. Yeah, so maybe it's universal, but I feel in America it's different than here, but maybe I'm wrong. And so I was saying that yeah, we should accept that, and just make sure that we put it on inside our lives in a way that it is healthy and helpful. Otherwise, we are just pointing fingers at others, and if we are not incorporating our will to power in a healthy way, it will manifest into society in a bad way, to society or into our lives, right? Making other types of behavior that are fucking annoying to us and to people around us. So it can be pointing fingers. It can be saying how bad you are because you want to do that. It can be in other things, because the person is not. I guess we can say. I guess now what I'm talking, that the person is not making sure their needs are met, or all their needs are met, right? And we can have needs that we don't know we had for sure. And I would argue too that sometimes we are satisfying needs that we think we have, but really we don't. It is just momentarily and temporary pleasure. That's I see a lot. I feel that a lot in the academic atmosphere, or I felt at least. And we more and more put pleasure as a god, right? You have to feel good. You want something, an ice cream, feel good all the time. You cannot feel pain, only pleasure. So that's not very good, in my opinion. That's sad, or that shouldn't be like the god. I think that's really interesting to share. Also, I have a phrase here that I want to finish, and we are in 1 hour of Reading Club the Thinkers. It's been really interesting to hear sharing these messages with you. I hope I make you think. The people, when educated to see clearly their shadow side of their own nature, they learn at the same time to comprehend and to love their similar. At least we expect that. A diminution in hypocrisy, and an increase of self-knowledge can only result in a bigger consideration into the other. I think that's true, right? The more shadow we put out in the light and the more we incorporate that into a healthy way, the more we can understand other, because we all act in patterns of behavior. I can only see the other that I have inside myself. And if I have that in a conscious way incorporated in me, I can understand more the other side. If she is manifesting something more on their instinct, primitive side that is not shed in light yet, I can understand them more because I was there too. Or I can understand, oh, I could be there if I did not have the light that I have myself, at least in this particular trait, for example. I think that's something that is useful to share. In practice, I think it can be when you pass on through a really bad moment of losing a child, for example, and when you see other parents, mother that lost their child, somehow perhaps there's a bigger chance of you connecting to her and understanding their pain and where they are in the process of recovery, because you already went there and you went onto all those phases, so you can understand them better. And as you understand them better, well, you can support them better and help them better. So we can have a better society where we can understand more and in depth the nature of people that have passing by some phase where their animal instincts are more predominant than the consciousness of their animal instincts, where they are shedded into light and they are incorporated into a healthy way, in a healthy way. So that's how I end up today. I hope you liked. Thank you so much. Tell me your thoughts, and bye-bye.